Welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle, educator, healer, speaker, guide, and fierce advocate for your yes. I help sensitive and successful men and women find, reclaim, and live from their full embodied yes. Through empowering you to understand your energetic hygiene, establish healthy boundaries, and heal your nervous system, you'll be able to create your yes-filled life and move through your days with more freedom, more ease, and more joy. You'll hear inspiring stories of people who found their full-bodied yes, thought leaders who pursued their own dreams and are living life on their terms, and learn new ways to find the courage, joy, ease, and freedom to more fully step into your yes-filled life. Say no to the good so you can say yes to the great. Join me on this journey to discover your yes-filled life. Whether you're looking to break free from the golden handcuffs, start a new business, find your dream job, or simply live with more intention and mindfulness, I've got you covered. Let's explore the possibilities together and make your dreams a reality. Ready? Let's do this. Let's get you to your yes-filled life. Hello and welcome to Your Yes-Filled Life. I'm your host, Brenda Winkle. As I sit here recording this intro, it's December 23rd, 2025, and I am just thinking about all of the things that have happened this year. And I find this time of year to be very reflective, and I don't know if you feel the same, but one of the things that I find really valuable, even before I start thinking about what I want to bring into the new year, is thinking about what worked, what didn't work, what do I want to let go of, what do I want to bring more of into my own life. And I had a big realization, and that is this, that I stopped people pleasing over the course of my career as a coach and healer. And I didn't realize that that's what I was doing, even though that's what I did. And the other big realization is that when I stopped people pleasing, I had energy in a completely different way. I had more bandwidth, more creativity, more energy, more vitality, more peace, more freedom, more joy, ease, and abundance, all from stopping people pleasing. And it started with me becoming more aware of how I was spending my energy. And so I created a tool for you that you can use to create that awareness for yourself. It's a free tool. It's a downloadable energy audit, and you can complete this audit in probably 10 minutes or less. And it will literally bring awareness to where you might be leaking energy, where you might have energy drains, and also make you more aware of the things that are fueling you so that you can do more of those. Go grab your free guide at brendawinkle.com/audit, AUDIT. Okay, today you are in for such a treat. When I was in Julie Solomon's mastermind, I met this woman named Beth Ann Tieche, and she is a content creator. And the thing that I really appreciate about Beth Ann is that she understands we're all human, we all have feelings, and that we're all unique. And so I wanted her to come on the podcast this week in particular because so many of us, whether we have kids in our lives or not, are dealing with transitions. And a lot of the things that Beth Ann suggests can work for you, whether or not you have kids, whether or not the kids are your own, or maybe they're neighbor kids or grandkids. And this episode is really going to support you in supporting yourself and anyone you know and love with kids in their life. And most especially, it's going to support kids. And you're going to have a good time listening to Beth Ann and I talk about what it's like to own a business, what it's like to have come from the world of education, because Beth Ann is a former principal who turned full-time content creator. So let me tell you a little bit more about Beth Ann. Beth Ann Tieche is an elementary principal turned full-time content creator with 8 million plus impressions monthly across all platforms. She's an on-air contributor and a mom of 3. She specializes in creating content for family-oriented brands, elevating their presence through social media in order to reach millennial moms with kids ages 2 to 8. You are in for such a treat. Let's dive in. Introducing Beth Ann. Hi, Beth Ann.
Hey, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing really well. I'm doing really well. We're gearing up for the holidays here. My kids are so excited. So we're just in that final push.
I am too, but my push looks different because my daughter is 23, and so it's more about like clicking the links in the Amazon list that she's given me, and so it's different, but I feel
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
I'm so glad you're here. I want to kick this off with a question, which is, what is one thing you either did or did not do that has led you to your yes-filled life?
So for me, one of the biggest things I did that has led me to a yes-filled life was choosing to go all in with my business and really choosing to make that my career. So my husband has been working for years towards going back to school to be a physician assistant. So his undergrad degree wasn't in anything science related, but he decided that that's what he wanted to do. And we're, both in our 30s. We have a lot of years left to work. That I'm like, yeah, if you want to be a physician assistant, go back to school. So he has been working on these prerequisites, chipping away at it for years. And our plan always has been that when he was, had fulfilled the prerequisites and was going to enter full-time grad school, I would go back to work full-time. And so when we were about a year out from that, I really realized, okay, I had this social media blog thing as a hobby. I need to figure out if I can really do this as a job so that when he goes back to school, this can support us. Or my background's in education as a teacher and a principal. I had everything right with my teaching certificate that, okay, do I need to go back and work in a school? So I just went all in that year leading up to that so that we could know, okay, can I make enough? And it was awesome. It has been, we make enough that this is how we support our family. He went to his PA school program. He actually graduated this month. So he will start working next year. So for me, that was such an important decision that has given me so much flexibility with my kids that I can, be home with them, do school drop off and school pickup, and not have to be working in a school setting, but to be able to have my own business from home. So for me, that was a huge pivotal moment where I can really see, you have those moments where you see, okay, the
Mhm.
path could have gone this way or it could have gone that way. And I'm so glad that I gave it all that I did and made that choice.
Oh, that's fantastic. And congratulations to your husband.
Yes,
It's
thank you.
amazing. So when you say, I made a choice to go all in on your business, for me, that looked like I'm going to stop thinking about throwing out applications to other jobs. I'm going to stop running on two sides of a fence. I'm going to treat this as though this is the job. This is, and treat it the same way I would have treated any job that I worked for, which is I honor the work hours, I honor my commitments. And of course, we get to choose our own hours as self-employed. But I'm curious, what did that mean for you when you say, I decided to go all in on the job or all in on the business?
Yeah, for me, it was really specifically around pitching because the primary way that I make money is through brand partnerships. And so I really decided to go all in with pitching and truly was sending 100 plus pitches a week to brands, proposing collaborations to make money through partnerships on social media. And for me, it looked like I need to see how much money I can make with this. If I'm really going hard with pitching, can I make enough money doing this?
Mhm.
And so for me, it was really that commitment to, okay, whether that means that, every day, this day of the week, I'm going to set the goal of, okay, I'll try to send 25 pitches every Tuesday. And then I'll send my follow-ups. Okay, then on Wednesday, am I going to send, I'll send 25 more. So kind of setting up a system for myself that I could reach the quantity I needed to reach. And I had benchmarks of how much do I need to book each month? And if I haven't reached that, okay, then I need to pitch more, that kind of thing of really giving myself the goals of what I needed to do for this to be sustainable for our family.
That's amazing. And so I just want to really highlight, you said you were sending 100 pitches a week. So this isn't like 5 pitches a week. This is 100 pitches a week.
Mm-hmm,
So there had
mm-hmm.
to be a decision in there also, like, this is what I'm going to do. And I don't care if they say no. It's more about my throwing the pitches out.
Yes, definitely, definitely. And then learning as I went too, kind of, I am, again, with my background being in education, I don't know that everybody realizes education is so data oriented because it's about looking at, okay, what are kids' needs? And then how do you fill the gaps to help kids get to where they need to be? And so I was able to really use that data oriented mind of, okay, when I sent 100 pitches, how many maybes did I get? How many yeses did I get? I have a spreadsheet where I'm tracking what they're telling me. I have a spreadsheet where I'm tracking what types of brands are saying yes to me. And then I was able to identify, oh, okay, a lot of food brands are saying yes. Okay, I need to pitch more food brands. So I think being really strategic in that was really helpful as well.
Mm. Okay, so this is something that comes up for a lot of people that I see. I work with professionals, entrepreneurs, and light workers. And a lot of the professionals that I work with are either wanting more humane settings in their work. So they're looking to set better boundaries, or they're looking to start a side hustle. And one of the things that I find people very resistant to doing is creating these systems and the flow, because it can feel kind of dry, or it can make people think, well, I was just in this job that required me to track data and do all of these kinds of logical tasks. But now I want to just work in my own business. But what I'm hearing you say, and what I have known to be true for my own business, is strategies and systems are essential.
Oh, yeah, definitely, definitely. And I think for me too, like knowing that you can stay flexible with it. So if you are trying out a system and it doesn't feel good for you, to know that you are your own boss. You don't have to keep doing that. So, and even, it's kind of interesting when you ask me that about the systems, because I've done so many different things over the years, depending on what season I was in with my kids. So there was a time when I first started my business, I did not have a nanny. I did not have full-time childcare. I had 3-year-old twins. My oldest was just starting kindergarten. And so I was doing, I was the full-time childcare for my kids. And so in that season of life, what it looked like for me was that I would give myself my big three. And every day I would just pick, what 3 things am I going to do to move my business forward? And maybe that was, okay, I'm going to do 1 organic post on social media. I'm going to send 10 email pitches to brands, and I'm going to DM 10 more brands on Instagram to try to source contacts. And then I would tell myself, okay, once I've done my big three, it's okay to be done. Because then I did find myself sometimes feeling like, oh, I've always got to be doing more. I've got to find more to do. I've got to, be hustling harder. So when I identified, okay, these are the 3 things I'm going to pick for myself to be my big 3 for the day, that helped me keep that forward momentum. And so I think that could be helpful for someone if you are more in that side hustle season, you aren't able to commit hours and hours to your, this job you're trying to create, this business you're trying to grow. Even if you're just doing 3 small things, right?
Mhm.
You're moving your business forward. And if you do that every day, you're going to keep that forward momentum.
Yeah, I love that. So I also have a background in education, which I think is what part of made us be like, oh, I want to be friends with you. And
Yeah.
and so I started my business as a side hustle, and it was a side hustle for like 7 years or 8 years before I actually took the plunge and went all in on my business. And and then we met in a group coaching program, and I'm so grateful for you, and I love your content. And one of the things that you do so well is you have a mix of tips and tricks that make people feel like you're offering solutions, and you're so relatable. And I love that you bring in this human quality of, we're humans and we have feelings about things, and here's how we can navigate them. And I so appreciate that about your content.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It is really important to me. And I think it can be hard as parents, as caregivers, when it feels like you have to be so selfless. So I think it's important to also recognize we're human too. We make mistakes, right? If you have needs, it doesn't mean you're a bad mom or a bad caregiver. You're just human. It's okay. So I think giving people space to see that and know that is really important to me.
I love that. I love that. So, this episode's going to come out right before Christmas, and so our listeners are going to be navigating the holidays, the new year. If people have school age children or grandchildren, they're going to experience that loss of routine that school offers for so many. And then we have to kind of refire up the routine in January. And I know that that causes families a lot of anxiety. And I know that you have some strategies that could help people with all of this. Could we talk about some things that people could do right now to just ease their mind a little bit? So let's talk first like about the holidays.
Okay, yes, definitely. So for the holidays, I think some of my favorite strategies, because I think it's also just really important to call out that different kids need different things. So I know you having your background in education, it's not one size fits all. And that's something
Mhm.
that's really important to me in the things that I share, that when I share with parents, I often say, take what resonates for you, take what works for your family, and just leave the rest. I am never saying this is the way, this is what will work for every kid, because there isn't one thing that will work for every kid. And I really see that too, even having three kids with really different personalities, there are different things that work for my three kids as well. So some of the tips and tricks that I would just suggest, and again, take what works for you, forget the rest. I highly recommend that if you have a child who really wants routine, really wants schedule, have a visual schedule for your day. And this doesn't have to be complicated. You could draw this on a piece of notebook paper, right? But even just showing your child, again, if your child needs this, if it's helpful for them, hey, when we wake up, we're going to have our 30 minutes of screen time. Then after that, we're going to do a baking activity together in the kitchen. Then we're going to go to the library, right? Drawing out the little steps for what they can expect. We'll have lunch, we'll have quiet time in our rooms. If you have a child who needs that structure, for them visually being able to see what's going to happen through the day will be really helpful for them. And I know for some parents, especially if you have a kiddo who is neurodivergent or who has additional needs, you might hear some of these things and think like, oh my gosh, that's so much work. For me, yes, that is work. And it makes my life so much easier that if my child can be successful and we can have success as a family and stay on a positive track, I would so much rather make a little picture schedule and plan a short sensory activity or plan a little something for us to get out of the house and do, if that's going to help all of us feel better. Like I would so much rather feel tired from having fun and having put the work into that than to feel completely emotionally depleted at night and feel like, because I've had those nights too, right? Where you're just
Mhm.
going to bed crying because it felt like such a hard day. So I think a visual schedule is a really helpful strategy if that's something that your kiddo would benefit from and need.
I love that suggestion. And there's a couple things that come to mind for me. One thing is that I learned when I was a teacher that a visual schedule can be up to down. So it doesn't have to be left to right because not all of our kiddos read from left to right, but everybody understands up and down. So you can start your calendar at the top and then have it go down. And it doesn't have to be artistically or aesthetically pleasing. It
Right.
can be literally a sketch that you drew with a pencil, and as long as you can tell what it is, it doesn't matter.
Yes. And just to give your kids grace and know that if they have no idea what's going on and they're not going to school, they're completely out of the routine, that is super disorienting. That is really, really disorienting. And especially if you're a child who already your brain might be working in different ways, just to think about it from your child's perspective of what can I do to help make this a little easier for them? What can I do to help them anticipate what's coming up? And so that also leads into another tip that I would love to share for families with the holidays is prepping kids before you go to holiday parties. So prepping them about who's going to be there, what to expect. If there are hot spots that you can anticipate, talk about it ahead of time. Don't wait until you're there to then kind of think through, oh, crap, I never thought about what would happen if my child opened a present and they didn't like it, right? We can anticipate that that might happen.
Mhm.
Before we go to the party, we can role play. Hey, I just opened this present that I really don't like. Should I say, oh, I hate this, or oh, I already have this, right? Your kid will say, no, don't say that, right? And then you can role play and practice what to say, what to do. And you can do that with any number of different scenarios you might encounter at the family party.
Oh my gosh, that is amazing. And something occurred to me as you were talking about this. My system is better regulated when I know what's coming. It's not just kids that can benefit from a visual schedule, it's all of us.
Right. Who doesn't love a checklist? I'm putting things on my checklist that I already did because I want to cross it off, right? Like we all
Totally.
we all love to have the system, the checklist, right? Let your child have that. Empower them with that. And it can make such a difference. Such a difference. Let them check it off as the day goes along. It can be a positive thing, right? So again, I always think about this idea of upstreaming and what can we do to keep it positive. And so again, just trying to be forward thinking and do those things on the front end so we don't have to be as reactive in the moment.
I love that. And I can see this also being a benefit in that week between Christmas and New Year's, because there's like this weird time thing that happens for me in that week where I don't know what day it is. I don't know what time it is. I don't know if I'm hungry, what meal's coming up, because the food gets a little disorienting with my family of origin because, all the things. And so I can see that this would really be helpful in that time as well.
Oh my gosh, so true. There is that time warp from Christmas to New Year's Eve. What day is it? Where am I? And you make such a good point that if it's that disorienting for us as adults, how does that feel for little ones? How do they don't know. They're just trying to figure it out. So I think as much as we can give a little bit of structure, again, to whatever extent is needed for your child, because I also know I have another kiddo of my three kids who he's just happy playing Legos in his room. His temperament is so chill. He's so go with the flow. For him, he doesn't need that, right? He can
Hmm.
be flexible and go with it. And just to know that just like we as adults have different needs and different things work for different people, same thing for kids. So just, and to trust that you know your child best and that you can find what works for them. And to know that if you are someone who has that kiddo who needs a higher level of support, that's okay too. You're not doing anything wrong. Your kid isn't doing anything wrong. That's just who they are. And that's okay.
That's right. I love that. So as we head back into school in January, I hear my own clients, they have like this bracing. Oh my gosh, school's starting. And so they are anxious for the routine to come back. They are ready for that. And also there's this preparation thing that starts to happen where they get very, very anxious about the load that the school year is going to bring, like with all the calendar and schedule things and making sure that the backpack is loaded up and, just all the things. So, what could you suggest for families as they get ready to go back to school in January?
Well, I have a few things as I hear that. One thing I think about is how sometimes, and not always, not all families, but sometimes as moms, we can take on so much and feel like it's all up to us. And so something I was thinking about as I was hearing that is really thinking about how can you share the load with the rest of your family and not taking it on as it all has to be on one person, but really we're a team. How are we all working together to make this happen? So whether it's, again, you would laugh if you saw my house. I have so many visual schedules and pictures everywhere, but whether it's showing your child, hey, here's what needs to get packed in your bag, right? So they can be empowered to handle that and own that. Or if you are someone who has a partner, if you have a spouse, right? How are we also allowing them to help carry that load so that it's not so much all on one person? And something that I think about too is releasing up the feeling of this has to be done a certain way to it's okay if my husband does this differently than I would. That's all right. There isn't just one right way to pack a lunch or pack a bag. It's okay. He can handle this. Let this be his thing. And in our family, my husband does pack the lunches and my kids do pack their own bag so that you can release some of that and it's not all on one person.
I absolutely love that. Love that. And I think that that is so good because it's very easy for us to get in our head and to think that we have this running to-do list and that there's almost a fear of if I let go of this in any way, I'm going to lose it. Not lose it like lose it in anger, but I'm going
Mm-hmm.
to lose the list. I'm going to forget it. And and
Mm-hmm.
so I love that you're saying, help me. Let's do this together. We're a team. Because if you have more than one person living in your home, it's true, you are a team.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. And I think even hearing you say that, it makes me think about how can you work together too to identify ahead of time, okay, what's going to need to happen that week when we go back to school so it's not Sunday night feeling like you're having to throw everything together, but how can you as a team do that ahead of time so that you can be as prepared as you can in advance? Because you're so right that it can feel like a lot trying to get back to reality.
Yeah. So I remember, when I was teaching full time, I was a single parent. And well, I mean, I was a single parent 1 year beyond. Wait, I'm going to say that again. I was teaching 1 year beyond my daughter leaving home. And so then I was an empty nester for 1 year. But for the other 25 years, I was a single parent. Not for all of those because my daughter's only 23. But the point is, it felt like it was all up to me. And I love how you're suggesting that we could enroll people into this is a team thing. And I did that, but I wish I would have done more because I think it would have made me a more effective parent.
Mm-hmm. I think too, to know, and I know I'm so lucky, not everybody has, a supportive spouse, a supportive family. I also am so grateful for my mom. Someone asked me the question, what's the one thing that's saving your life right now? And it can be a goofy, answer like chapstick or, this, whatever. I was like, it's my mom. And even thinking about when my husband was going through grad school, she drives my son to swim practice 2 nights a week. She will ask me, hey, can I take one of the twins this weekend and have them at my house, Saturday to Sunday, right? So if you have those people in your life who are there to support you, to really tap into that and take advantage, and that it doesn't have to be a spouse, but just if you have other relatives, friends, I feel so good when people text me and say, hey, can you give my kid a ride to this? I always
Yeah.
am like, oh my God, thank you so much for asking me. I would love to help you. It feels good, right? Of course, I'm taking my daughter to dance. Of course, I want to drive your child along. That, of course. So just to know that I think overwhelmingly people want to help and that it's okay to reach out and ask for that help. And really
One,
that oftentimes
oh,
people feel good.
yes, 100%. I love that.
Mhm.
I would love now for people to say, hey, I need help getting my kid somewhere. I would be like, oh, I would love to help you. Or can I
Right?
make you dinner? Can I help you with your dinner? Can I bring you groceries? I think people love to help. And so many times we sort of have this idea that we need to suffer in silence. And the truth is, if we can lean together, there's so much richness in community. And when we admit that we're vulnerable, when we admit we need help, we need companionship, we need support, we need actual tactical, I need you to drive my kid this place. There's something so wonderful about being witnessed and received.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, again, I'm not to speak for everybody, but I think most people really feel good for you to ask them that. It helps them feel connected to you and feel good. Again, I know that's how I feel. And I'm thinking,
Mhm.
we got two puppies in the fall. And one of the big adjustments for us is that we're a very on the go family. And it's been really different. I'll suggest things to my husband like, oh, we should go to the museum for the day. There's this, that. And he'll say, Beth Ann, we've got two puppies. We can't just go and do that. We gotta be home for the dogs. But I texted one of my girlfriends the other day saying, hey, I've been really hesitant to ask for help with this because I don't want to be a burden, but would you and your daughter ever mind coming over and helping out with the dogs? I'd be happy to hire her as a little junior pet sitter. And she said, oh my gosh, that's the opposite of a burden. And that's what she said. She said, that's the
Mm,
opposite of a burden. I want to help. We want to do that. So I think you're so right that as much as we can lean into that, I think it also, and lean together, like you said, I think it helps build those bonds too, that it builds something together when you feel like, hey, I can ask you for help and you can ask me for help and we're in this together.
yeah. And I find for me, when someone asks me for help and then I do whatever it is that they need, I feel more connected to them. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. Same. Same. and feel more able to ask a favor in return, or that, you kind of get that reciprocity as well, that, like you said, you really have that support network, and that we are stronger when we're together and can turn to each other. So I love that.
Mm, mm. So going back to your business and the transition that you made from education into your business, was that scary for you, or was it just like, did it happen organically? What was the progression of things?
So I was already a stay-at-home mom to my kids, and I had a little part-time job that I really enjoyed. And then as my husband was working on these prerequisites for physician assistant school, that was when he eventually had a commitment that he had on Saturdays. He was going to have to go in and work at this eye clinic in a part-time job to get his clinical hours. And when he had to make that commitment, I had to leave this other part-time job that I had. And that was what finally motivated me to start the blog and start my Instagram. So while at that time, it felt like a loss because I'd had this other part-time job that I enjoyed, I thought, okay, well, if I can't go in and do that on Saturdays because Ben has to work, what if I go ahead and just start the blog? I've always thought about this. My mom has always said, you're always doing all these activities with your kids. You should share this. And so that really was a motivator to me to just give it a go and just get started. And I think for a lot of people considering a part-time hustle or a side hustle, sometimes you just need to take the leap. Just give it a go. And again, you don't have to feel that you will have to do that forever. That's how it always has to be, but just get started, give it a try, and then you can always reassess and go from there.
I love that. And I know I know the people listening might be thinking, okay, how do you like put yourself out there and reduce rejection sensitivity? Because we know that, if you're pitching people, that you're going to have a certain percentage of no's. We know that. And we know that not everybody likes everything that we post on social media. And how did you navigate that because you show up fully, and I'm just curious, did you have to work through any rejection sensitivity? Was that something you needed to navigate, or did you just approach it as, I'm going to pitch these 100 people and then I'm going to worry about what happens after? I'm just going to get the action.
Kind of both. So I think for me, part of it was just being really grounded in who I am and what my values are and who I was providing value to. So for me, when I started my account, one of my kids is neurodivergent. And I do think things have shifted. The landscape has even shifted in the last 5 years, that is more talked about. There's more content for families who connect with that. But I remember when I started my account, I really felt like in the parenting content I was consuming, I didn't really see my family. I didn't connect with a lot of things. It sort of felt like a lot of one size fits all sort of messaging. And I would see it and think, well, that's not what my family's like, or I could set that up and that wouldn't go well for my kids.
Mhm.
So when I started, I really had sort of that kind of service mindset of, I think this can help other people. And I felt that being grounded in that helped me reduce feelings that I was going to be rejected, or reduce those types of fears, because I was coming at it from the mindset of, well, I know I'm not for everybody. I know I'm not for everybody. I know who I'm for. I know who I want to help. I know what I wanted to see as a parent. And so I felt being grounded in that helped me quiet some of the voices that maybe were more, negative in the back of my
Mhm.
mind, or
Mhm.
worrying about what other people were going to think of me, if that makes sense.
I love this. And what I hear you saying is you were providing a service,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very much about what you could offer other people. It
Mm-hmm.
wasn't about you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I think that that is a subtle but profound lens to look through, because when we're offering something from the view of, I want to offer this to you because it could help you if you want it. It's
Mm-hmm.
really different than, here's this thing I made, I hope you like it.
Mm-hmm. Totally, totally. And just to know that it's okay if somebody sees it and thinks, oh, that this isn't for me, she's not for me. That's okay. I don't have to be. that's all right. And to not take that personally and to just know that even now, when I have times where, when you talk about sending pitches and getting no's, when I have times where I feel kind of bogged down in that, because sure, of course, that can get you down or it can feel like a grind. I think when I do notice those feelings, I try to come back to what can I do with this platform to be of value to other people? How can I make sure I'm supporting moms out there today? And then that
Mm-hmm.
kind of just helps me stay grounded in that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. I want to help other moms. I want to help other families. I want people who have busy, spirited, possibly neurodivergent kids feel like, hey, I'm not so alone. There are strategies I can do to help my day feel a little more joyful. So I think again, for me, just coming back to that, I feel like you can't go wrong when you just stay grounded in your why and why you're doing what you're doing.
I agree completely. I know that for myself, if I get up in my head about something, my content doesn't land even with me when I watch it again. If I'm like worried about me, but when I'm just sharing and just, thinking about how can I be of service? How can I help somebody? How can what I've learned or what I've been through help somebody else to maybe shorten their journey? Then things land differently for people. And I can see it in their faces. I can see it in my relationships. I can feel it in my own body. Um, so I love that you highlight that service orientation.
For sure. For sure. Yeah, I think that's huge. I really do. And I think too, to the point also about being okay with rejection, I think there is a part of just doing it and knowing that it's okay, and if as much as it might feel scary to send emails and not get a reply or get an email back that says no, it's part of it.
It's
So
part
for
of it.
someone that whether, for me it's pitching brands and pitching those brand partnerships, just to know that I think it's easy to feel like, oh, if I get to a certain point, then everybody's going to say yes to me. Or if I was at some destination, then they would be saying yes. I still send tons of pitches and get a handful of maybes or yeses or build relationships. So just to know that so much of that pitching and getting the no's, like it never ends. So just to be okay with if you're a business owner, that's part of it. You're going to make offers and a lot of people are going to say no, and that's
Mhm.
okay. But part of that also can be the relationship building. And I think that can be true whether you're, selling more directly to a client or if you're selling to a brand, right? That some of the brands who I've ended up working with and had the highest paying, longest term partnerships with, I pitched them many times before and they said no. And I kept
Yeah.
coming back and saying, hey, here's my offer. Hey, here's what I can do for you. Oh, hey, wondered if now might be a better time, right? Building that relationship and doing the follow ups and building the relationship over time ultimately led to the opportunity. So I think having that mindset shift as well, that even
Mhm.
though it's a no, it might just be a not right now,
That's right.
but how can I build that relationship and stick with it?
And you're pointing to something really pivotal, which is there's a volume thing that happens here. If I send out one pitch and then I have all my eggs in that basket, then it matters so much if that pitch either doesn't respond, I don't ever hear back from them, or if it's a no. It's really a big deal. But if I send out 100, there's a volume thing that happens. And suddenly it's not as personal because you start to see patterns and you start to see that it's not about you. And you start to see that there's cycles in the time of year, there's cycles in the times of buying. And for me, that has been an incredibly healing part of my own journey as a business owner to up the volume substantially because then I realize, oh, this really is not about me.
Yes, that's such a good point. And honestly, I think that's something that even when I had a smaller following, my account was smaller, and I would have these different brand deals, I would have people with much larger followings reach out to me and say, oh my gosh, Beth Ann, how are you getting these brand deals? And I would say, I pitch all the time. And that is, I just pitch a ton. And I think you're right that, and I know we both had the same business mentor, and that was something I really learned from her. And going back to one of your earlier questions of what it looked like for me to go all in, part of that for me was also investing in coaching and investing
Absolutely.
in, okay, how can I have someone help teach me how to do this? And a huge part of what I learned was exactly what you're saying, that volume of pitches. I need to send out more,
Mm-hmm.
and probably even more than you realize that because it is a crowded landscape. And so it's like, you got to be making those connections and putting the time in to selling your offer if you want to make money.
Yes, 100%. 100%. And you said you got to send more than you think and probably more than you want.
Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah. True, true.
But
Yes.
we do this when we're working for someone else
Hmm.
and we don't question it. We might say something about it, but we don't question it. Whether it's lesson planning if you're a teacher or making notes, patient notes if you're a doctor, there are parts of the thing that you're doing that maybe aren't your preferred thing, but they're a really important part of the process.
Yeah. And I think that gets into something interesting too, where also thinking about, as you grow in your business, are there parts of what you're doing that you can outsource? Because pitching is something that's very, very time intensive. So figuring out, okay, is there a way that somebody can support me with this? Even if it's not that they completely can take it on from start to finish, are there pieces of this that I can outsource to someone to lighten my load? I think that that's huge.
Absolutely. I agree completely. I'm at the phase in my business where I need to hire significant support.
Mm.
And so I'm at the phase where I'm like, okay, I probably need a podcast producer. I probably need a VA that is working more than just a couple of hours a week because I um I love working in Canva. Like it truly brings me joy. And it's also not where my gifts lie.
Well, and it's so interesting how that parallels what we were even talking about earlier in the home, where that idea of I have to do it all myself. I'm the only one who can do
Mhm.
it the right way.
That's
And where
right.
so much of the peace comes from releasing that of my kid can pack their backpack and maybe they wouldn't do it exactly like I would, but it's important to empower them to do that. Or my partner, or I can ask for help. How is that, also parallel to what's happening in our business of it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to hire help. That it can just create so much more space for the other things that I'm excited for you. I hope that you find, yeah, I'm excited for you to find the right supports because that will make such a big difference.
Yeah, I'm excited too. I'm excited to be at this phase and I'm excited for what comes next and that feels good.
And I think too, I mean, while we're talking about this, knowing that there are probably listeners who are at all different stages of their journey, to also call out that there was such a long time where I did everything myself. I think it can be easy to feel like if you're getting started, like, oh, I need to hire someone to edit my YouTube
Mhm.
videos and I need to hire a podcast producer. And I was very much, when I started my business, I was like, I'm not spending money that I have not made. So I
Totally.
wanted to try to make money and then invest that back into back into my business.
Mhm,
So that
mhm.
was for me like, oh, okay, I got this good brand partnership. I'm going to invest in this mentor. I think this is going to really be a game changer for me,
That's what I
right?
did too. I invested in mentors instead of help because I knew
Mm-hmm.
the mentor was going to help me move the needle so that I could generate the income to be able to hire. Yeah,
And I just think that's important to call out because if you're hearing it and you're at the start of your journey, I feel like there are these things, whatever you hear, people, oh, I work an hour a day. And, if it's not like that for everybody. It's not like that for me. I work hard.
me
And
too.
so if you are in a season where are kind of, grinding, just to know that like that's okay. And it doesn't mean that you need, to be wearing yourself thin down to nothing, but it's also okay to work hard to build a business. And if you're
It
in a season
is.
where you're working hard and you aren't hiring help yet, to know that that's okay too. And that's where I was for a really long time. And that's where even that idea we talked about with like the big three, or like even if it's just picking a few things you can do to move yourself ahead, you're making progress. It's okay. Rome wasn't built in a day. Keep going, stay at it. And you can be surprised what you accomplish over time.
I love that. Oh my gosh, this is so good. So good. So, where can people connect with you? How can they find
Yes.
you?
Yes, my primary platform is on Instagram. It's Low Lift Fun, LOWLIFTFUN. And I love sharing low lift, easy ideas, low prep fun activities for kids, and also positive parenting support. So Instagram is the primary platform, but I'm also on TikTok, Facebook, Pinterest, and my website is lowliftfun.com.
Amazing. Beth Ann, thank you so much for being here, for sharing your ideas. And I just have loved this conversation.
Oh my gosh, it flew by. I'm like, oh, can we keep chatting? This was so fun. So thank you for having me.
Oh, this is amazing. Happy New Year.
Thank you. You too.
I absolutely loved this episode and hope that you did too. The thing about creating systems, whether we're talking about systems for businesses, systems for life, systems for kids, is that what's good for one person might not be supportive for another, and that there's room for all of us to create systems that work for us, whether we're talking about kids or adults or families or businesses. And I love that reminder that Beth Ann gave us in this episode. And she came back to it again and again and again that each of us are unique. And I adore that perspective because we are all unique. It's not one size fits all, right? And I loved that reminder. And I also love some of the ideas that she had, especially the visual calendar. I've noticed that in my own life that I function better with a visual calendar. And when my daughter was living at home, we had a visual calendar the whole time that she was in elementary school. And it really helped to eliminate any anxiety that she might be feeling about what comes next. So, invitation to give that one a try, whether or not you've got kids in your life. And I can't wait to hear what thing you took away most from this episode. Invitation to tag Beth Ann and me on your social media and let us know what you loved about this episode. And don't forget to go download your free energy audit tool to make sure that you're fueling your energy in the most effective way possible by going to brendawinkle.com/audit. Thank you so much for listening to Your Yes Filled Life. If you loved this episode, would you please consider sharing it with someone you care about and giving the podcast a 5-star rating and review wherever you're listening is one of the most helpful things that you can do. Thank you so much for being here. Wishing you a beautiful end of 2024 and a happy new year as we embrace 2025 together. Bye for now. Until next time.